Sentinel Mindset.
Security versus protester. We're going to watch a video right now, something that's relevant in the news in Toronto. Let's take a look, and we'll go right after that.
What are you doing?
In a video from September 19th, a security guard is seen picking a young woman up and throwing her to the ground. A second security guard comes in to help restrain the woman, while the guard in the yellow shirt handcuffs her and tells her she's under arrest for assault. The woman then starts pleading with the guards.
Get off me! Get off me! You're hurting me! I can't breathe!
Absolutely appalled at the force and brutalization used against a pro-Palestine student who was simply protesting.
Please leave.
Prior to the incident, the woman and others crashed a panel discussing artificial intelligence. Minister of AI, MP Evan Solomon, and the others on stage tried to de-escalate.
Protest and peaceful protest is protected and welcome in this country. Obviously, we'd like to also this forum, we respect it.
The day after the incident, TMU's Vice President of Administration and Operations issued a statement, writing in part, "The video is unsettling and difficult to watch, and it understandably has raised questions and concerns from our community. The security officers involved, contracted by a third-party security organization, have been reassigned and will not return to campus duties pending the outcome of the review." The statement notes the school is still trying to confirm the facts and that one individual was asked to leave due to disruptive behavior, which appears to violate community guidelines. Toronto police say the woman allegedly assaulted security while they attempted to remove her and that she is facing charges. During the walkout, demonstrators read a message from the protester.
Please don't ever be fooled into thinking you are safe. Don't fool yourself into thinking it can't happen to you. None of us are safe at this school right now.
Some Jewish students said they felt unsafe because of the walkout.
Our student union is basically kind of sponsoring this walkout and basically advertising this walkout, which we're also a club part of the student union, is pretty one-sided and pretty against most Jewish students on campus, which I don't think is okay.
The union supports all students' right to dissent and free speech, especially on campus.
During the walkout, CBC Toronto captured one man being placed under arrest. A 27-year-old man is facing a charge of criminal harassment. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
All right. Welcome to the Sentinel Mindset, everybody. I have with me special guest, Steve Somerville. How are you doing today?
Great, Constantine. How are you doing?
Amazing. And I have to highlight this, even though we've done this many, many times before, but Steve is an expert witness in Canada and North America in regards to many, many cases that he has basically provided his expertise on. And today, we're going to have Steve provide that very same expertise into relation to this video. And this is something very new that has just surfaced, in Toronto. It just happened this week.
As we're doing this podcast, there was a student walkout demonstration yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, based on an event that occurred a week before, with allegations being laid or levied against security action for perhaps supporting the association, and certainly TMU.
Okay. Now, Steve, what I will say is it's very interesting about what people's perception and opinions are around this.
Totally.
Some people, they'll go out and say, this is the gospel, like what I'm about to tell you. However, there's others that I think are very misinformed. And it would be interesting because we've had quite a year or two of a lot of protests happening within Canada.
We have, sir.
And I think it's important for many security agencies, many people working in security, and also the general public, what are the rights of security in a protest, and what are the rights of a protester in a environment such as this? I want to show you 3 videos, Steve, that I picked off of TikTok.
Okay.
It's a good capture of what these individuals think based on what happened at TMU.
Sure.
Bro, security guards do not have that much authority to be doing all that, bro. Like, that video was actually crazy.
I ain't know the backstory, but I don't think security's allowed to do all that. Most security I know about, they have to observe and report.
So the short answer is that that's not legal, okay? Mainly because they appear to be security and not police officers.
Okay. So there's the general public consensus from a few people of what they think security's rights and rights are not in regards to protest environment.
Correct.
Why don't we just open up the floor, Steve? What's your initial thoughts on what just happened?
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to voice an opinion to this. First of all, anytime I offer an opinion, publicly or privately, I try to make it an informed decision. If I'm going to be asking about conduct, or security or police, I usually try to review, if I can, to the best of my ability, what the stimulus was or what the situation was that security were dealing with at the time, and whether or not they exercised appropriate judgment. I'm not partisan. I'm not taking a side, and I'm not going to spew rhetoric just to appease a particular political narrative. I don't think that's appropriate. Now, before I say that, all reviewers from the Sentinel Mindset podcast certainly have a right for their own opinion, but make it a learned opinion. I see some people here, individuals, obviously not speaking with any particular area of authority. People are wrong-spirited. And sometimes there's an agenda. Or perhaps you just have righteous people providing an opinion that can't truly be supported. Before I get into the narrative with this particular incident, I see Ms. Bennett, who is a student union representative, saying she is concerned about the egregious behavior of security. I'd argue that we should also be concerned about the egregious behavior of students, unsettling other students, and unlawfully protesting. Yes, you certainly have a charter rights opportunity to speak. But when you become disruptive or commits assaults upon security, we're not only talking about inappropriate student contact, we could be talking about criminal conduct. And when we have a body of individuals, i.e. saying a student union, taking to task about other people or events going on at the university, in this case, it was specifically at the Evan Solomon Democracy Forum. That was a week ago Friday. And these students, I understand, if I captured this correctly, they were demonstrating against the Israel's use of AI on the war in Gaza. But you saw there in the interview, too, in the piece captured last night by CBC TV, students were also concerned about their safety, not for the rhetoric put forward from some of the demonstrators, but saying, as our union is demonstrating, making us a political message, Palestinian against, we're Israeli students, we're Jewish students, and we also feel threatened. So there again, just to cut to the chase, you have a right to demonstrate, but when you're asked to stop and you are instructed, if you don't, you're going to be required to leave, and you fight back on that, you're committing an offense, a provincial legislation offense.
Okay, so if I stand for something and I'm totally against the movement and I want to protest and I want to demonstrate, I'm legally able to go and protest.
Absolutely you are. You have a legal, lawful right to gather collectively with other like-minded people.
Even if it's on private grounds?
Well, it depends on the specifics of this. This was a forum. This was an event. I don't know if fees were paid to attend the event, but it was on at TMU. And here's the issue is people sitting in that audience also have a right to be able to attend a session, an informative session. Just because you disagree with the narrative of that session doesn't give you the right to prevent other people from hearing another message. We are able to hear all sides of the opinion. And through your own righteous convictions, you don't have a right to determine what is appropriate for other people to hear. So when you're asked to sit down, you've had a right to demonstrate. And you heard during the actual forum, democracy forum, that people said, we respect the right to demonstrate. And you have that absolute right, a legislative opportunity to do so, but not at the expense of other people also having a right to participate in a forum that they wish to do so.
So is it reasonable to say, Steve, that if I go to protest, and I'm in an environment that is considered to be like, a peaceful environment, and I start creating basically commotion.
Or, as CBC narrative said last night, disruptive behavior.
Okay, disruptive behavior.
Then that's not my narrative, that's theirs.
Then it's understood then, if I disrupt, that if I'm in in an environment that is a private environment, that I could be asked to leave.
You can ask me to leave, but even when there was an attempt to facilitate some form of we call it a disturbance, but your narrative. You have a right to voice that. But up to the point, there's a tipping point when they say, okay, Constantine, you have exercised your legal authority. Right? The people seated around you also have a right now at this moment to also hear the speaker. You made your statement. You've had your moment. Now you need to sit down or leave. And when you defy that, that does give the occupier, in this case, TMU, the opportunity to legally ask you to leave. Forcibly do so if you refuse. And use reasonable force, necessary force in those circumstances. And security, contrary to the lady's narrative here, who she doesn't know what she doesn't know, certainly has the lawful authority on behalf of the TMU to act on behalf, as an occupier, on behalf of TMU, and use reasonable force. I understand through the narrative it's not security action that's right now being vetted for inappropriate behavior, but it's the student that is being looked at lawful behavior, assault upon the security guards.
Mm-hmm.
So we also need to globally look at what consequences are we looking at for students that breach the rights of others? Are they still going to remain to be students? I think this is a narrative that the community also wishes to hear. It's a fair, nonpartisan review in terms of conduct, not only from security, but what prompted security to have to act on their behalf. You can't churn and play like you're a victim later when you've propagated your own outcome.
Okay, so this is good. So I go to an event, I disrupt. At that point now, the security come up to me and say, "Sir, you're going to have to leave right now."
Right.
I tell them, "Go fly a kite. I'm not leaving," right? At that point. So at that present moment now, they have full authority now to basically, because I'm refusing to take direction now,
Correct.
They have full authority now to ask me to leave. And if I refuse to leave, now they have authority now to use basically whatever force is reasonable.
Reasonable and necessary force.
Yes, right. So let's stick on that topic. For a lot of the young people that may not understand what the word reasonable is, because we're going to get into that, because a lot of the words that are being described on this takedown, there's some wrestling moves that were thrown in there, a body slam, all that. I want to kind of like emphasize, when you say reasonable, Steve, what is considered reasonable?
Okay, before we go there, let's talk about the legislative authority other than an opinion, what you're working under. I'm referencing the Ontario Trespass to Property Act, which permits an occupier, in this case TMU, to set boundaries, to set guidelines of what conduct will be permitted on that particular facility. Up to that particular point, they've pointed out conduct. They've given you an opportunity to comply. And the Trespass to Property says you can be forcibly removed from that venue if you fail to comply with those reasonable, lawfully placed requests.
Right.
Matter of fact, they'll go one step further. In terms of the Criminal Code of Canada, specifically for our viewers, Section 25 of the Code authorizes any application as long as the application of force is consistent and reasonable with the resistance provided. Now, I've heard a narrative that this lady, the student, was allegedly slammed or body slammed onto the floor.
Yeah.
In my humble view, I've viewed this video probably at least half a dozen times. That did not occur. She was forced to be placed on the floor.
Yes.
But what you don't see in this video, Constantine, is well led up to the physical engagement.
Okay.
What resistance, if any, was provided to the security guards to be a reasonable means to defuse to take them to the ground.
So, Steve, that's key, because a lot of times people are going to start critiquing on what they see.
Oh, yes.
Not the backstory.
Well, they also spew rhetoric to what they believe to be, which is erroneous often here. I found the three commentaries. Sometimes people, and I'm not being mean-spirited when I say this, they actually soil themselves. Some people don't even realize when they should be embarrassed when you provide an opinion.
Right.
It's not factually correct.
Right.
Which is more embarrassing than the incident we're trying to review for some. You put yourself out there. You say, I have rights, I'm an activist, I have rights. But then when people force you something with legally done, then they push back on that. But I've heard no one talk about the conduct of the student from the Students' Union.
Yes.
And how other people, other members of this faculty, this community, are also feeling threatened by your actions. And how right now the student union is supporting this walkout, but it's a statement that's causing concern to other students.
Yes.
I don't hear much of a narrative or a review in terms of that accountability to all.
And I'm sure a lot of this has to do with education, because I think a lot of times, again, as you stated, when a lot of people are throwing a lot of commentary and narrative here without any legal backbone to it, they're just throwing their perception of what something is. In fact,
you would think, sir, would you not, in a university, they would have access to perhaps an educated response in terms of what their options legally are?
Absolutely.
I don't know what they're teaching.
No, 100%.
Is that not something that you'd be provided, that for? But in terms of legality, now we'll take you into Section 34 of the Criminal Code, which actually talks about the Citizens' Arrest and Self-Defense Act. It talks about under circumstances where you are able to apply force. It's got to be reasonable misconduct.
Yes.
Matter of fact, for those who are interested to realize it's not propaganda that I'm spewing, Google Section 24 of the Criminal Code and ask specifically, or read specifically what it says the courts will consider. It will be the nature of the force, the situation of the totality. Would you have other more reasonable means available to you? Everything from size to gender to giving other options in your role in the incident. In this particular moment, security here, we're acting on behalf of the TMU. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a trier of fact, but I believe the actions here were reasonable according to this resistance and certainly legal in its context.
Okay, Steve, this is good. What I want to do here is this. Pretend we've not seen this video. Pretend nobody saw this video, and all you did was you open up your newspaper or you're reading off your phone, and you're reading the description of what happened. Now, I've heard people say things such as body slammed. I've read things that major use of force. The way this was described was when I first started reading it was I thought I was going to watch something where someone was getting violently subdued. I want to just show this video to you, Steve, one more time, and for the audience that is listening, I encourage you to come on and just watch this on our site.
Sure.
But I want to just show this. So right now we just have a still of the security guard who has the individual, and he's actually lifting them off the ground.
Right.
Okay.
And before you to show that,
yes,
I'm going to ask the viewers to take a look at were there any blows or strikes or levers being applied against the person. This person was compressed and held to the ground and handcuffed behind their back, which mitigates the use of force, additional force. Because your hands behind your back, there's no need for me to apply force on you. And likeliness, or more likely than not, you're not going to be able to offer any form of assaultive behavior.
For sure. And again, when we use the word body slam, because I grew up wrestling, Steve, so I anticipated when I was here, I'm like, holy cow, there was a body slam here.
Yeah.
When I looked at this did not look like a body slam to me whatsoever. But let the viewer look at this right now and see
decide.
Exactly what the thoughts are. All right, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so this is very quick. It says even the newscaster saying he's picking the person up and throwing her.
I believe, Constantine, if I may say, she was directed to the floor. It wasn't a free fall. It wasn't a free flow.
Dead weight.
It wasn't over her hip. She was supported and directed to the ground. I did not see any contact with her head on the ground.
That's right.
And I did not see any follow-up techniques or maneuvers which you could deem to be unnecessary and reasonable.
Okay.
Hands placed in the back, containing her situation, secure the hands behind her back. That is the way law enforcement, in the way police officers taught to ground active resistance and to handcuff a person safely to bring them into custody.
Okay, so this is good. So for those of you that are just tuning in or you're a first-time listener, Steve was also a staff sergeant with Toronto Police for 26 years?
24.
24 years. I always get that up, mess that up. And he was also an instructor with CO Big College, so he was actively instrumental in training many police officers in doing their jobs. Now, Steve, when you look at this, on the surface, if we were in a court session right now and the jury is before us and they're looking at this video and they're asking, Steve, your expert witness testimony right now, or your thoughts on this, would you identify this as an erroneous use of force, or as a body slam, or what is being labeled here as an?
Well, before I'm asked such a question in the courtroom in this province, I'm asked to establish who my true loyalties are. My duty is to the court. I have no other relationship with either the person that hires me or to either side. I'm there to assist the court, the trier of fact, to be able to determine the validity as to whether this was consistent with training or not. Mm-hmm. I did not see a body slam. I did not see a forcible direction to the ground. I saw this person being lowered to the ground. And just so you know, that's the skeptics or viewers, they either support or don't support what I say. Mm-hmm. I testify for and against police action in the courtroom. I testify for and against security action. I'm not a hired gun. I have no other agenda or object other than to tell the truth, to my knowledge, in this particular context. So in this particular case, usually is what becomes erroneous behavior is strikes or blows once a person is grounded. I didn't see any. Mm-hmm. And the other one is that would be the placement of the knee in relation to a person's body, whether it be in the neck or the head or the upper back area. And I don't see that. I see here a physicality in terms of bringing her hands behind her back. That's a low threshold application of force, as I deem it, sir.
Okay. So I guess the question that I first thought, and again, Steve, as you know, I'm an agency owner of a security organization, and I'm always looking. And again, for those listening, when we're looking at critiquing videos, it's to provide awareness and education. When we look at these two security officers, or security guards, as we say in Canada, would you say, Steve, that what they did and what you saw would be considered to be in proper conduct?
It's my view.
Yes.
And if I were testifying under oath, I'd state under oath that these guards here, from what I understand, from what I can see in this video that's prescribed, I didn't see any other videos, so I didn't see what led up to it. But in the segment that we have provided, that we've been able to view, I believe the actions guards were consistent with their training and reasonably applied to circumstances that were lawfully based to do so.
Okay, good. I would agree with you on that. The second thing is, Why do you think they were asked to leave? Do you think it was because that TMU and outside sources feel that they actually did what all these articles are alluding to, create like violent force? Or do you think it's just to take them out, kind of like the tap out method? We need you out of this area until this is cleared down.
I'm not able to answer that question appropriately because I've not been given any information to that. The only thing I could would be to guess, and I don't like to do that on this podcast.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
I can show, there was a segment where you saw the actual session attempted to de-escalate. It appeared to be attempting to de-escalate the demonstrators. So much to the point where one of the presenters actually said, no, we recognize and we validate your autonomy, your opportunity to demonstrate. But you heard the narrative, and that's the only reason I'm commenting on this, that you were asked to leave, you were asked to stop disrupting, and you didn't. There's a tipping point. When you are asked to cooperate, sit down or leave, failure to do so, you're legally able to forcibly remove that person so other people can enjoy the session. Your needs are no greater, no less than anyone else's. But I find sometimes people who are activists or agitators or agent provocateurs, at times they forget the fairness of what they're attempting to do, and they feel all areas should be going for them. I'm looking at one of the printouts that's seen from the media, and this is a comment allegedly from a person who wished to remain anonymous due to concerns to their safety. And I repeat, this is just beyond crazy because you don't expect school security to treat students like that, said a student representative of the SJP who spoke to this particular news station on the condition of anonymity. Well, I don't expect students to treat security like that or other people attending that facility. And if I were going to be a nonpartisan overviewer of that particular entity, that school, that university, I'd say, hold on here. We're talking about fair conduct. You're no longer going to be a student here. Because other students also have the right to be protected, and they feel safe when you go to school in a learning environment. I'd understand why there's not been a big pushback from the community talking about egregious behavior from some students who feels that their needs or their ability to have the right to demonstrate far outweighs the rights of other people who wish to be peaceful and watch a presentation.
Well, Steve, I'll tell you what I think it comes down to. It's just being educated. That's really what it comes down to. Because today we learned a lot. Today we learned that every citizen of Canada has the opportunity to protest.
Yes, sir.
And we also learned that if you're protesting and it's peaceful, there's no issues. But if you start becoming disruptive, we have learned that you can be asked to leave.
You can ask me to leave.
And if you refuse to leave, authorities at these environments can 100% legally ask you to leave and use as much as force necessary to get you out there.
You got it.
But what you also learned today is that if you are disruptive, just like this individual in this video, you could be charged. And this student right now that was charged, whether it's going to follow through or not, the school might even say, we're going to expel you from the school right now because this is against the policies of the students. There's a lot of things that could happen here.
Yes.
And Steve, I think at the end of the day, these are the things that I think are very important for people to understand, is that they just need to know the parameters that they can actually test the waters on.
I'd agree, and that could be an educated process. It could be also one that you choose to ignore, thinking that my needs are far greater than what you're asking me to do. And there are also some people who are martyrs. Some people say, I wish to become that threshold of being a martyr and look at me, I'm just trying to exercise my rights. I'm trying to bring your attention to a cause. I'm not saying the cause is unjust. I'm not even going there.
Okay.
But everyone has a right for their own political views. Everyone has a right for their own opinion. No one's suggesting otherwise. Certainly from this podcast, we're not. It's all I'm suggesting is your conduct, though, depending on where you're at. You have a right to think and what you do in private places, certainly your home. But in a public institution, when there's a demonstration going on, you need to be very, very well versed that your level of conduct will also be tested in the court system if you perhaps go beyond the scope of what's deemed to be reasonable at that time.
Okay, that's good, Steve. Can I ask as a very last question here, for all the security agencies that are listening right now and the security personnel that are listening right now to this video,
right?
If you are ever in a situation like this, is there any guidelines or advice that you would give to them when dealing with a protester?
I think it's be important. Great question. And we just did that recently with the Toronto National Film Festival, where we spoke about a particular event where we were anticipating some form of demonstration. It didn't go that way. But we did, as a security team, we did take very specific instruction that was discussed in terms of the action and the roles that we would take to get to that point where we would identify disorder or disruptive behavior. And up to that point, that tipping point, either with or without police involvement, police were available for us for that particular event, by the way, is these are the actions that we would take and the consequences for it. But we also need to make sure that TMU is supporting security. You bring licensed security in, and just to not prevent security to come back to that site, you're almost villainizing them. You're almost saying that you did something wrong. I don't believe they did anything wrong, sir. I think they did something unpopular because there's a pushback on them doing what they were legally bound to do. Security, sir, would have had no personal agenda to take action unless they're supporting the actions of TMU. If security had stood back and allowed that event to be disruptive, sometimes, if I may say, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because you receive criticism for doing your job, you'd also receive criticism for not doing your job. And it would appear that I don't think TMU would have given this authority for security to act on their behalf unless there was the need to do so. So we also need to take a look at the rights of all people, including the presenters. I have a right to present information to you without beyond the norm level of disruption.
Okay, Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. It's always a learning experience here. And at the end of the day, education is power, and power will help you navigate through life the best way possible. Steve, any last words?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity of providing a bit of narrative to this. Until again, stay safe.
Take care, everyone, and see you next week. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on the Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative support, Jaslene Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.